Good evening and welcome to PGurus channel. I am here with Dr. Subramanian Swamy, member of Rajya Sabha. Dr. Swamy, welcome to PGurus channel.
Yeah, thanks.
I also have with me Ramesh Narayan Swamy, who is a member of VHS and he's based out of USA. And we both will be moderating this conversation with Dr. Swamy. And I would like all the viewers to use the hashtag AskSS to put in your request, and we can take it from there. We will try our best to listen and address all your questions, but we have a set of questions to start with, and we will go from there. Dr. Swamy, are you ready? The first question is about demonetization. Now, one of the reasons that has been mentioned is that it was necessary because of asset inflation that occurred in three places: real estate, gold, and stocks. Let's start with real estate. Now, we can broadly break the real estate into two segments: above 1 crore and maybe below 50 lakhs. Now, the lower segment will probably recover quickly because the black money content in it is low. How do you see the upper segment recovering?
Well, see, first of all, all that has happened in the final analysis, as we see after 1 month, is that the black money in circulation continues to be unaltered, except that most people who are holders of black money are now having 75% of what they had before, and a whole lot of new interlocutors and dalals, as we are called them in our language, they have got 25%. So practically all the money supply that was out in the economy has more or less come back to the banks. But in its place, new currency notes have replaced the old black money, old notes. So I don't think that as far as the real estate is concerned, it's going to be any big debt.
So what was the takeaway from this whole move then? That it stopped foreign terrorism?
Well, I think it was a good idea, except that it would have been an unprecedented move in world history, because 86% of the currency notes were to be demobilized. And what is, in my opinion, shocking was that the finance ministry had no contingency plan to fill that vacuum that would arise from the withdrawal of this thing by demonetization. So we lost out on that. There was definitely a gain as far as terrorist financing is concerned, not only foreign financed, but even within the country financed by loot and by terror and so on, like the Naxalites and the Ulfa and that kind of groups. So even they have had now they may be in a position to recover over a period of time, but we have got a breather. Kashmir is now much more peaceful than it ever was in the last 10 years. But that's too small a price, too small a gain to compensate for the price we have otherwise paid, mostly in collateral damage.
I have one follow-up question on this, Dr. Swamy. I thought the new notes were not being printed fast enough to make up for the 500s and the 1,000 that went out of circulation. So how did the black money get completely converted when there is not enough physical new money?
You see, first of all, the issue is the currency was not being put into which currency? 2,000 rupees is something that people didn't want, except those who are black marketeers or those who have black money. The currency which was in demand was the 100 rupee notes, because there was nothing short of those who had the maximum a worker is a 500 rupee note. So you need 100 rupee notes. It was not there. So that's where the problem came. But as far as the black money people are concerned, they have made do with the 2000 rupee notes.
Okay. The second question is about gold price rise. Despite India being the second or third largest consumer of gold, it does not seem to have any impact on the price of gold. Why is it so?
Because we are insecure people, and this is a hedge against the future. So the prices will always rise of gold. It's unlikely till the Indians become more secure people, people who are ready to take risk, that kind of thing. We are risk averters. So gold is something which is known to be very stable, and that's why people put money in gold.
As a follow-up to that, how is the gold monetization scheme of the government performing? We announced it, I think, the last budget.
There's no gold. Just some incentives to hand in gold. It's okay, nothing much. Okay. Nothing that is commensurate with the gold stocks in the country.
Okay. I have a third question on stock market. Will demonetization impact stock prices? Has this broken the participatory notes link?
No, not at all. I mean, if the black money is with the black money holders is still as strong as before, there's no real change. In fact, the Hawala people are in dying to get the new notes because the Hawala people also finance the terrorists, the Dubai being the center. So I don't see any major change. In fact, in the stock market has not. There's no wild fluctuations in the stock market or any precipitous decline.
Okay. Thank you. Ramesh, do you have any questions?
Yeah, I'm going to put Dr. Swamy. What is going to happen to the Jayalalitha DA case?
Well, the DA case is still there because she's not the only accused. And when the judgment comes, that if they find her guilty, they'll say guilty but unimplementable. That is, they will strike down the High Court thing. They may have other ways of judging the matter. They may say that the calculation done by the Karnataka High Court was faulty, so let it be referred back to do a fresh calculation and come to a proper conclusion. But Jayalalitha is in de facto out of it, but Sushikala and our other relatives, they are still very much part of the case. There is a question that these people have been prosecuted under the Prevention of Corruption Act, and whether that would apply or not, but I don't think there's any difficulty in that.
And just as a follow-up, you had mentioned about ADMK getting split up. Given what is happening today, I guess that's definitely going to happen. And what is your
because you see, Sasikala's appeal has not been because she was a great organizer or she was a wonderful person to go to for problems and so on. She was a very what shall I say, rough type, and her own appeal was largely because of caste, and that is the Tevar caste, and all the other castes sooner or later will gang up against it, and her inability to rise above that caste identification will ultimately lead to a split.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Swamy. The one question for the best understanding for all, can you give us a gist on Ram Mandir and how the daily hearing will help us?
Yeah. By the way, I just want to say, best before we get off the topic completely of demonetization, that in 2014, Modi had appointed a committee called Strategic Action Committee, and he had made me chairman. If you ever do monetization, which of course I favored doing, accompanied like an antibiotic is always accompanied by some vitamin E or some tablet like that. Same way it should be accompanied by an abolition of income tax. And had they done that, I think this thing would have been an outstanding success. But unfortunately, they didn't do that. Now, when it comes to Ram Mandir, the next hearing is on the 4th of January, where my prayer for day-to-day hearing will be considered. Now, the present case in the Supreme Court is an appeal from a defeat of the Muslim parties in the Allahabad High Court. The Allahabad High Court recognized that there is something called Prana Pratishtha Puja, and therefore, as an act of faith, and because of faith, they declared the domes to be places of Ram's birth, and therefore, because of Prana Pratishtha Puja, it belongs to Rama. Rama is the owner of that site. That they declared, but they said that in order for harmony, let the Hindus have 2 of the 3 domes, and 1 may be given to a masjid. Now, that is not acceptable to the Hindu parties. So there is a appeal of the Hindu parties against that also in the Supreme Court. But that's a minor part of the matter. The Muslim parties, they have taken a stand in court. Not that Babri Masjid is a religious place and the mobs demolished it and it has hurt our religion and therefore it should be rebuilt. That's not their argument. Their argument is that by adverse possession, that land belongs to the Muslims. And they were not able to prove that, and the Allahabad High Court unanimously rejected that. So they have come in appeal against that, that this property belongs to us. Not that this is a religious holy place for us, a masjid of ancient traditions, etc. But that this property, we were in ownership, and for 350 years, therefore by adverse possession belongs to us. It may have belonged to the Rama Bhaktas before, but no more. And that's a faulty argument because adverse possession is an argument only if the person who's been deprived of his property has not complained about it. The Hindus every year for 300 years complained and were killed. They were rioting. These are all documented. So they don't have a case at all. And secondly, the Muslim practice in Saudi Arabia and other Muslim majority countries has completely undermined the case because it is widely held and it's a Sharia law that masjid can be shifted, masjid can be demolished for public purposes like building roads, apartment buildings and so on. So we are, Hindus are saying, you are a masjid, build it across the Saryu river. And the property on this side will be entirely Ram Janmabhoomi, and on that side you can build as big a masjid as you want. That would be the most self-respecting compromise that the Muslim community can make. But if they want to contest it, if it is heard on a day-to-day basis, it won't take more than 2 months for them to be defeated in the Supreme Court.
Thank you. Ramesh, you are muted.
Dr. Swamy, the demonetization being the hot topic, there's one today, the Ministry of Finance issued a notice that political parties are exempt under IT law to deposit old currency notes into their bank accounts. Do you think this is a welcome move?
These are some of the problems with this lack of a contingency plan. You've gone making these amendments, and in the end, it is the whole idea gets out of shape. I was never in favor of just a currency ban. As I told you, I wanted it to be accompanied by income tax abolition. If that had happened, all these exemptions and 50% tax if you deposit your money in the bank, all these taxation, all this would have been unnecessary and would have had a much smoother ride. With the elections coming, it had become inevitable. Because the pressure is enormous. Nobody can do a political campaign now after what happened. And so this is a adjustment to reality, which is being forced on us because of a lack of a contingency plan.
So you want to take the next one?
Yeah, okay, thank you. Dr. Swamy, state funding of elections. What are your thoughts on this? Is there a time frame for this to be implemented?
I'm against it.
Okay.
I'm against state funding per se.
Okay.
It's an unworkable proposition, and it discriminates against smaller parties. And the democracy should be a free play of political ideologies. Let the best man win, survival of the fittest.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any reason why we should assist in the process of big parties to grow bigger.
Okay. About combining state and central polls. Now, if you notice, we are in election mode practically every month or every year in a 5-year span. What are your thoughts on that? And if, assuming that we go ahead and implement that, how will we reset the clocks on some of these state assemblies?
It's a big constitutional problem. See, supposing a party loses a majority, and no other party can, form a comfortable majority to form an alternative government. It happens because of the fractured mandate that the people gave, and several parties coming in, becoming a coalition. So we would need some kind of a constitutional amendment where you say, like the Germans say, that if a ruling party loses majority, until the opposition parties can work out a combination which enjoys majority, the ruling party will continue to rule even they don't have majority. Now, these raise some moral problems, but you have to have some kind of mechanism like that, because it's easy to say once in 5 years. Well, it was once in 5 years if everybody gets a majority. But the fact is that people, getting majority is a rare occasion. It may happen in the future, but as of now, I think it's one of those propositions which we have to think more and more about. And maybe in another 10, 15 years, when people vote for majorities as opposed to coalitions, which they're not doing in Europe anyway, and even in Britain, that's not happening. I mean, the latest poll, yes, but in between that had stopped. I mean, United States is the only one which has 2 majority parties. There are parties which get majorities. So unless you reach that situation, I don't see how it will be possible to constitutionally justify the simultaneous holding of elections. If you ask me morally, do I prefer? Yes, morally I would prefer that, because we are fed up facing elections every year. We are unable to concentrate on long-term objectives. But we have to overcome these major problems of the Constitution before you can go ahead.
Thank you. On VVPAT machines, are these going to be installed in every polling booth in the UP elections? I'm specifically asking about UP because that is the big enchilada in this next round of elections, and that there's going to be probably a multi-party contest.
Well, you see, the judgment I got was in 2013, and it was promised that they would over the years, they didn't specify the number of years, the election commission saying that ordering these machines is going to take a long time, replacing the existing ones is going to take a little time. So they have been so far experimenting, and very successfully the experiments have gone. Now the BJP government did what the Congress government was refusing to do in a few years they were there after the judgment. That is to set aside any money for the VVPAT. And now we have set aside a huge amount. And I assume that not UP elections. UP elections, maybe 30% might be VVPAT. But 2019 Lok Sabha election, maybe 100% VVPAT.
Doctor, even 30% is an impressive number, considering that in 2014 there were hardly any. So that's a good takeaway. I have one more question. PGurus is in receipt of a letter written by a Sri Lankan member of parliament, Arumugam Tondaman. And this is about St. Anthony's Church visit. And this letter is addressed to Mrs. Sasikala. It is dated on 11th of December. I think you may have a copy of that letter. And it sort of hints that OPS is not really running the government, but Sasikala is.
Well, she is a general secretary. I don't know whether she has been formally elected, but she is at the moment in control of the party. We don't know how long, but she's in control. And she's assertive. Paneer Selvam is famously known as Paneer in North India because he's such a boneless wonder. Anybody from outside is, especially if he's from Tamilian from outside, is likely to gravitate towards Sasikala in the absence of anybody else decisive. Now, I think as far as the St. Anthony's Church is concerned, I have myself visited it. It's on the island of Kachativu. And it was a decision of Indira Gandhi with the concurrence of Mr. Karunanidhi, at that time Chief Minister, that Kachativu will be handed over to Sri Lanka. And we signed a treaty. And I think to bring Karunanidhi around, Mrs. Gandhi paid him a handsome tip, I would call it, not a fee, but a handsome tip, for which Karunanidhi capitulated. I probably never thought that this will ever be found out, but I did. And in 1988, when I found that the fishermen were not being allowed in the mid-March to go and celebrate St. Anthony's Day, I myself took a boat and went and landed in Kachativu when the LTT was threatening that they will kill me and they will do that and this. But fortunately, Rajiv Gandhi was my friend, and he provided Army, Navy, Air Force, everything he could think of to give me protection so that I could land, go in the sea. Now, there is no point in an MP of Sri Lanka writing to Sasikala about St. Anthony's Church. It's a private matter. The state cannot act on whatever these people want for us to do, not our country anyway. And if the Sri Lankan MP is so keen, the Kachativu is part of Sri Lanka. Why doesn't he raise it in their parliament instead of asking Sasikala and meddling in our affairs?
Dr. Swamy, today we had, you had filed a case in OP Saini's court on Ratan Tata and Meera Radia.
Yes.
Can you give us a quick brief on what is the case?
One of the big scandals, you see, in the 2G spectrum scam, everybody was hurt except Mr. Tata directly. But what really happened was this: Mr. Tata had what is called as the CDMA, which I think is still in the United States. And under the law, he could not bid for the UASL, that is, Universal Spectrum License, Universal Application Spectrum License. Now, there he was debarred by the fact that he already had a telecom company. So what he did was he took out money from Tata Sons of about 1,700 crores and handed it to a real estate firm called the Unitech and asked them to bid for a license. And I think his aim was to retire from Tata Sons directorship and chairmanship and become a Unitech owner. But unfortunately for him, I went to Supreme Court and got all the licenses cancelled. So first of all, what he did was illegal. And two, he managed then thereafterward to create, make the Unitech create about 7-8 companies. And through that, he recovered 1,000 crores of it, which I never saw the Tata accounts again. It might have been put in some other account, which is not official. So all this money laundering and so on, these are things which I didn't investigate because I didn't even know about it at that time. But the Special Frauds Investigating Office, which is a body of the Ministry of Corporate Affairs, some patriotic officials did an investigation and produced a 60-page report where they've detailed all the frauds that Mr. Tata had committed in this matter, and recommended prosecution to the ministry, which the ministry just sat on. Previously, it was the UPA, and then afterwards, our own government sat on it. Now, that report came into my hands, so I based it as a prima facie evidence and moved to the court and said that Mr. Tata, Neera Radia, etc., they should be made accused. They are accused in this crime, and the court must, if necessary, order a money laundering investigation under the Enforcement Directorate, or take my private complaint just as in National Herald and launch a prosecution. So the court heard me, and then they took it on the file and said they will have my sworn statement on the 11th of January, and then they will decide how to proceed in the matter. I'm quite confident that Mr. Tata will be summoned, and he will have to stand in court along with Neera Radia. And I know from the reaction from inside Tata Sons, there is utter panic, because this is something they never thought would happen.
Go ahead.
Voice is gone.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'm here. Yeah. So that brings us to this question on what is the status of GST?
Ramesh.
Yeah, Ramesh.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ashish here. We are at 8 o'clock. Just wanted to check, we are going to do it till 8:30 or till 8?
No, I will be leaving at 8:15. No, I have a TV camera. 8:30 is okay, but
okay. So if we can take some questions from Twitter.
Yeah.
And just quote the people you're asking on Twitter.
No, actually, I have.
So that we can.
Okay. I will.
Okay. So just mention who's the Twitter handle and the question.
Okay.
So we can take some live questions on Twitter. Thank
okay. So there's one question from Noble Goblin. It says, "Is young Indian shareholding is allegedly illegal? Why is AJL conducting EGM? Is it to convert the NPO legal?"
No, it's impossible to convert anything legal now, because the Constitution of India says very clearly that you will be prosecuted for the law as it existed at the time you committed the crime. So you cannot post facto change the law to say that I'm innocent. That's not permitted, and therefore it becomes illegal, and it doesn't matter to my case.
There is a question from user handle YV1623. Says, "Can true history of Bharat be restored through archaeological facts by Archaeological Department of India?"
No, you don't need the Archaeological Department of India. There are a bunch of bureaucrats. What you need is a team of intellectuals appointed by the Government of India and given the task to start with. Please prepare a textbook for students of schools on the true history of India, the defalsified history of India. And I would recommend the government appoint somebody like Rajiv Malhotra as the chairman of that committee, and I can suggest about 4 or 5 people others, and then they should subcontract and review, edit, and finally produce a textbook. We need a textbook of the true history of India, which is most required. At the moment, it's a Macaulay history of India, which makes you feel inferior, which makes you feel that everything that you have today is because of the British.
Shri, you have anything?
I am going through the hashtag here.
Okay.
I have just one follow-up question from a previous thread. Dr. Swamy, is the exchange rate of the rupee vis-a-vis the dollar going to change much because of the demonetization move, or is it still going to depend on our GDP and the federal rate structure, which just went up by 25 basis points?
Well, the exchange rate is determined on a basket of currencies and in a free way, but they are weighted by a basket of currencies. And the participatory note is still healthy and going strong, which is, in my opinion, now the major determinant of the exchange rate. And there are a lot of short selling that is going on, which is still not being intercepted or banned. So I don't see that demonetization would have any effect on the exchange rate.
Dr. Swamy, there has been some statements in the press and elsewhere that Mudra Bank is perhaps one solution to try and address the needs of small and medium equipment manufacturers. What are your thoughts on this? How far has this progressed, or is it still, in the wrangle of who's going to have control on it, RBI or somebody else?
Well, these are proposals. I don't take them seriously. The only way to help small and medium industries is lower the interest rate to below 9%. I mean, around 9%, if not lower.
And what is it now?
It's now not less than 12%. The prime lending rate is 12%. I don't think anybody gets, small and medium industries get loans at less than 14%. And in desperation, they have to pay 18 to 25%.
Wow. That's all I have from my side. Ramesh, do you have any questions?
Dr. Swamy, just as a close-up on GST, can you give us a quick update on where we are on GST? Or GSTN rather, not GST.
GSTN is on life support just now. And I don't think it's going to be easy to bring it, because I'm totally against the GSTN, which is the spinal cord of GST. It's a private limited company tasked with doing data processing, so that you know exactly which company produces what at where, and sells it at what, sells what at and where. That is, since your GST is supposed to be theoretically a tax only on the point of sale, and thereafter the revenue being distributed according to a pre-prepared computer program. Now, since the majority of the shares are owned by indirectly by foreigners, I'm against it. Not because I don't like foreigners, but because this is a government organization and tax is a matter of privacy. And I just don't want foreigners to have it. Second, in the private limited company called GSTN, there's also the National Stock Exchange wholly owned subsidiary as a shareholder, which means that they will be able to do for insider trading. And there are lots of other things. I don't understand why, when you have 14 nationalized banks, why we should have private banks like HDFC and ICICI as owning more than altogether owning more than the majority shares. The majority shares should be with the government, and the private parties should be wholly owned by Indians. And if the government doesn't comply, I will go to court and challenge it, because this is a matter of national security and it's not a party matter.
I think we can't end up conversation without Pakistan. So I know you've talked about it a lot, even in the US when you had a session. So for the benefit of the viewers, quickly, how to handle the Pakistan menace?
Yeah. Well, you must understand, Pakistan has an identity problem. When the British passed the Indian Independence Act to create Pakistan out of India, they said their object is to create a Muslim-governed Pakistan and a Hindu-governed India. And immediately Dr. Ambedkar said, in that case, let us have population exchange. Now, at that time, the decision of the British was to have independence in June 1948. But the coming of the INA and the uprising of the Indian Army infected by the INA slogans scared the hell out of the British, and so they advanced it to August 15th. And the man who did the advancing was Mountbatten, who had just come back from Singapore after seeing the INA sentiment. So there's hardly any time. And then they rushed through this Ratcliffe Commission, and they, in a haphazard manner, they divided India and Pakistan. And in the meantime, people like Nehru and others decided that no, we will not have a Hindu-ruled India, we'll have a secular India. And that ultimately led to the situation where Pakistan was created. And from day one, Pakistan had this identity problem. How do you define its identity? They defined it in terms of we are better than India. And the Muslims are better off in Pakistan. Now, one of the saddest part for Pakistan is Muhammad Ali Jinnah's only grandson and his only daughter are both citizens of India. In fact, they even renounced Islam and they are Parsis. Now they are Zoroastrians, the Wadia family I'm referring to. And so if Jinnah couldn't even persuade his daughter to be a thing, now how can he say that all Muslims are one? And she was, of course, she ceased to be a Muslim, but at that time, her mother, the daughter's mother, she had converted to Islam. So I am saying that this Pakistan will never be able to resolve its identity problem. The only thing that kept 4 parts of Pakistan together was this Islam thing. Bangladesh destroyed that. That religion can be adhesive. And now, in my opinion, it's only a matter of time, because before Pakistan becomes 4, either we assist it or it happens in its own time. If it happens in its own time, it may take longer. But we should look for an opportunity to see that Pakistan, instead of becoming 2, now becomes 6, or rather 5. I mean, Bangladesh plus 4 more.
How can India and Israel work together on this stuff?
Sorry to interrupt. Ashish Shetty here. I have a few questions, if I can.
Okay, go ahead, Ashish.
Yeah, so this question is Dr. Swamy by KV Rao on Twitter. This is on the topic of FCRAs and NGO funding from abroad.
Yeah.
He's asking whether we can do something about the false PIRs that they have been filing against Indian traditions like Jallikattu in Tamil Nadu, Dahi Handi in Maharashtra, and even the Subramanian temple in Kerala.
Yeah. I think we should put a new rule that no foreign funding funded NGO can participate in causing social change. Because in the name of social change, they try to create a new identity which they call as the indigenous Indian. What do you mean by indigenous Indian? We are all, the DNA says we are all the same people. So you say, no, the scheduled castes, scheduled tribes, they were the original inhabitants. And they have had conferences funded by the United Nations for this purpose. So the net result is that these NGOs become what they call as the proxy warriors for imperialist countries. And I think we should make sure, yes, you get it, you do it for medical reasons, building hospitals, that kind of thing, but you can't file PILs. That sort of regulation is necessary.
NGOs should not file PILs.
Absolutely.
Foreign funded especially.
Yeah, that's what I mean. FCRA means foreign funded. Yeah.
The next question is from Mr. Chiranjeevi Prasanna. This is on how can Israel and India work on defense technology together?
United States, Israel and India should form a formal military alliance against ISIS. And because you can't get any equipment from the Israelis unless the Americans give a waiver. Because everything the Israel gets and improves on has to have the United States exercises its influence to see it doesn't go to countries which are hostile to the United States. For a long time, the Israelis were prevented from giving us anything modern because the American fear that it will go to the Soviet Union. Now there's no Soviet Union. Maybe now they'll be afraid it might go to China. So India has a very poor security rating, which we can only overcome by having a military treaty. And tell the Americans, we'll fight on the ground without boots, the ISIS in Iraq, and you open your warehouse and let us pick what we want. That's the way the Americans also could be saved with their fear of losing too many lives.
So on the ground, we can support them, they can give us the technology.
That's right. And then the Israelis' collaboration will become very easy.
For the technology.
Because the waiver will be automatic.
So it's like the manforce from India, the technology from Israel, and the...
No, the technology from the equipment from America, and the innovations.
Next question, Dr. Swamy, is on the question of RTE by the Twitter handle VR Kumaraju.
Yeah.
When will government stop? So in general,
it's being
anti-Hindu and
it's being objected to.
And the part 2 is also about the temple control of Hindu.
Yeah. Part 1 is concerned that I think there's a lot of heartburning on this, and I think we are going to have a second look. I need not say very much more, except that it is an ill thought out UPI thing which we have implemented for nothing. RTE. Yeah. Now, as far as temples are concerned, under Article 25 of the Constitution and Article 26 of the Constitution, the secular activities of temples or mosques or churches are subject to government control if it is in the interests of morality, public order, or health. Now, financial mismanagement is being considered as part of what might cause public order or disorder or or the morality question. And therefore, governments have intervened, but they have only intervened in the case of Hindu temples. When I raised this question in the Sabanayagar temple issue, informally, I didn't formally make a petition, but while I was discussing the Sabanayagar Nataraj Mandir temple matter, I raised this question that why we are singled out. So the argument, the answer of the judges was, who's stopping the government from taking over churches and mosques? You see, it is the government which has to do it. So the government can equally take over mosques and masjids and madrasas if it feels that morality, public health, and public order is being violated.
Okay, sir. So just continuing with the thought of ill thought out acts and archaic laws in India, there's a blatant misuse of many laws in India, like 498A, which is used as extortion. What is your general thoughts on law reforms and misuse of such archaic laws? This is a question asked by Animesh from Twitter.
By the way, 498 is not an archaic law; it's quite a new law.
I mean, in general, other archaic laws like Bombay Police Act in Bombay is used very.
See, this misuse of law is something which is a dilemma, and one cannot make that as a reason for scrapping any law. The homosexuals of the world had wanted 377 ago saying it is misused. Well, supposing that law was not there, then we'll have gay bars all over India. And that would be a disaster for our society.
Culture.
And our culture, of course. The American investors would be here setting up a gay bar in every village of India.
Starbucks.
Like Starbucks, yeah. So, I think the misuse factor should be corrected. And there are, for instance, there is something called POXO, which is prevention of sexual...
The Asaram Bapu case.
Asaram Bapu case is the example.
Yeah.
That there was no rape. Yet under the title of rape, the allegation of a girl who claimed to be below 18, said that he put his hand on her. Now, that was taken as prima facie true unless proved otherwise.
Because of underage.
Because of the fact that the girl was underage, and all you have to do is produce a school certificate. But so, and then the other aspect of that is Section 19, which says that anyone coming to hear of child abuse or abuse of women must report it to the police, otherwise you are subject to 3 years imprisonment. Now, there have been cases where the judges who heard divorce cases where these are freely traded charges being subject to police investigation. Why didn't you report it?
Judges?
Yes, those who have in courts have dealt with divorce cases. Under this Section 19, the police can sit them and say, well, I'm going to arrest you.
So just to clarify, if I understand correctly,
yeah,
a judge was presiding over a divorce case.
Yes.
Where liberally the husband-wife trade verbal or whatever.
That's right. That's right. And they're supposed to report it.
About rape. And in the court proceedings, they got privy to this information.
Yes.
And then they were investigated that they did not take cognizance that it is a crime.
They did not report it to the police.
Judge did not report it to the police.
That's correct.
It doesn't even say that he didn't take cognizance.
No. Just that the judge ought to have informed the police that this is the information I've received.
And there are currently judges who have FIRs against them.
Yes.
Wow. This is, I think is...
And it just scared the hell out of the judges. The most good judges don't want to hear divorce cases.
Well, judges. All right. This is very interesting on the law reforms. I never knew judges were in such a pickle.
Yeah, I have moved an amendment after many judges spoke to me about it. And I moved an amendment.
I think that's good to hear, because I think in general people have a very not so great opinion on how judges.
Well, that is in India. People are against politicians.
So
people are against politicians. They are against intellectuals.
No, I'm saying
India, we are critical of everybody.
Like you always do. You've given us the other side of the story that we never know about through mainstream media. So I think we can claim this as first on PGurus, Shri.
Yes, yes, we can.
The last couple of questions from my side. We have a question from Natraj Shetty back on economics. What percentage of black money is in different forms? Like everything is not in cash. So much more of that amount is in
undisclosed wealth can also be called black money. The problem is that black money within India is not a stock; it's a flow. So supposing evade taxes and I get I collect money, which I get in cash. Then I go and take a taxi ride, and I give the taxi driver his fare in rupees. Now, that's legitimate now. I mean, the money he has got as a fare, for him, it is legitimate to report it to the income tax that this is how much I got. He doesn't have to disclose the identity of who gave it. And then it becomes a black. So it's India, I would say that black money is more a outcome of idiotic laws like the income tax law. And the income tax law is not that we have high rates of income taxes or a very wide coverage. It's more the harassment, the access it gives to income tax officers to visit you and make all kinds of demands or as an unfavorable order, which you have to go and fight in court. Some of us enjoy it. I mean, for me, if any income tax officer gave me a bad order, I would go and challenge it in court. But then I like going to court. But most people, middle class people don't like it. So I would say the best way to eliminate black money is to have very simple laws. And some laws need not be there. For instance, in my opinion, at this stage of our development, India does not need an income tax act to be scrapped.
Completely.
Completely.
Including corporate taxes?
Absolutely. All corporate taxes, everybody.
So,
at most, you can say for corporate taxes, we'll give you an exemption for any expenditure you do, like building houses for your workers, busing your children to school, building school buildings, those kind of things, you can give an exemption because they have the wherewithal of chartered accountants to help them to keep these accounts. But I think generally speaking, for the individual, there should be no income tax.
So given that it is a very drastic step that many people, including finance ministry officials and the famous economic advisors and foreign bank RBI heads that we have had, who think that this is a very drastic step.
Yes.
Could we have a similar model for personal income tax, where any investment made in railway bonds or infrastructure bonds of the country can be unlimited exempted?
That means paperwork.
Okay.
I'm against paperwork.
No, because people want to protect income tax officers' jobs and
well, no, you can put them in digging ditches or something.
or interlinking of rivers.
Whatever it is.
All right, sir. Last two questions from Mishri, and then I'll have it back to you.
Yeah, I have one follow-up question on this topic, if I might interject.
We are at 8:20, so we'll have to close in like 5-7 minutes.
Okay, well, why don't you go ahead and finish your questions then? I'm fine.
Two quick question. One is on Pakistan.
Pakistan I've already answered.
Oh, okay. Then finally, we'll go to Home Ministry. What do you think is their performance like, given the what is happening in West Bengal, Kerala, and UP?
Well, Rajnath is a great friend of mine, so I think the performance is brilliant.
Okay.
I won't say more than that.
Okay, Shri, back to you. I think we should conclude now.
Yeah. Dr. Swamy, thank you very much for taking the time out to talk with PGurus viewers. And it was much appreciated. And I hope that we can have more such hangouts in the future. I think a wealth of information has been covered, which probably people don't get to see when they are on looking at watching you on TV. And to the viewers, I apologize. We had some technical difficulties. We had to start later than originally thought. But I think we've covered most of the content. Once again, thank you very much. Have a nice evening. And we will have the cleaned up video up there shortly.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy.
Bye.
Thank you.